You know, when I started making F1 cars for automation to put through to BeamNG, I thought, you know what, we'll start at the beginning of F1 as a championship. And I always kind of thought back at that and went, I don't know, probably should have started at the beginning. So there is the Grand Prix, which a lot of people associate with the F1 series for the longest time, but that started really, really early and wasn't actually at the beginning of the F1 regulations, which happened in 1946. And it was meant to happen at the beginning of 1946, but it happened much later, and the first winner of said F1 Grand Prix was the Alfa Romeo 158. There is also two versions, one of which has a top notch. This one, you can see a little bit of a top notch on there. Doesn't really... maybe I should do something about making that a sharper line. But then we've also got the version that doesn't have the top notch. And you can see here that that is quite round. You know what? This doesn't actually feel like the right design studio for this. So let's go ahead and... basic doesn't look very good. We'll go with 80s. Let's try relaunching that. There we go, now we're in the 80s. And this feels a lot more like it. So originally F1 was just kind of like some group of people that came up with a set of rules that said, hey, let's just try sticking to these sorts of rules. And that was Formula 1. 1.5 liter, I think it was for supercharged, and I think 4.5 liter for naturally aspirated or something like that. It was all very loosey-goosey. It wasn't even particularly like the most popular race at the time, it was just one of. Still though, this vehicle has a lot of heritage and I wanted to try and make it. Out of 3 websites, I finally found that the body is aluminium panels on a steel tubular chassis. That was a lot more trouble to figure out than what it should have been, but at least we can do that. Aluminium now, and we're gonna also set this to be really old. I forgot to do that. Then space frame, close as we can get, front longitudinal, and then the suspension is where this starts to get a bit whack. Now, on the front, this is meant to be semi-trailing arm, and on the rear, a swing arm. Now, you can only get semi-trailing arm on the rear in automation, and swing arm straight up doesn't exist. Now, that's because when the timeline that automation is meant to start, really the only companies that I think that ever really did it was some Ferraris and most likely just Volkswagen and a little bit of Porsche. Like, that was it. Nobody else. But that does leave me the question, do I just go double wishbone on both? I think McPherson strut fits semi-trailing arm the most, considering that it has one pivot in the middle and then the wheel keeps the orientation of the strut tower, which is kinda how swing arm works, at least a little bit. But this was leading arm, swing arm, so it was swinging this way, meaning that the tire never changes camber on compression of the spring. I don't know. Let's just go with McPherson strut. I think I'm gonna go with semi-trailing arm on the rear, considering it has undesirable handling characteristics, much like swing arm did that it naturally came with. Alloy block and head, way back here? Ooh, that's a long time ago. Well, let's do it anyway. We're gonna go with an inline 6. We can only go cast iron, apparently. Dual overhead cam. I know that this one is a 2 valve because I've already looked it up. Then, just to get that lightness, we're gonna increase the quality of that. This thing tops out somewhere around 7,000-ish RPM. Compression ratio is 6.5. Carburetors. Well, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Do we go with this, which looks very weird and dorky? Or do we go with some triple single barrels? I think that's probably... oh, no, not eco, sorry. Oh no, then these ones also go upwards. Frick. Ah well, I think for now we'll just stick with the triple single barrels. Then over in Blender, what I'll do is I'll rotate these over 90 degrees, I reckon. You know what, I want DCOE. Nah, screw it. I want, there we go. DCOE. There, much better. Though I have just remembered that this thing runs a supercharger, so it's not really quite so straightforward. I don't know if this is mechanical injection either. It does say carbureted, okay. And this is not the amount of power we're going for. 1, because that's a much later power number that's quoted, but 2, also because we want to have the pre-supercharger amount of power. That way when we put the supercharger on in BeamNG, we'll then be able to get the power that we want with, I think it's about 17 PSI a boost or something crazy like that. So yeah, we're gonna aim for somewhere around 110. And then we're gonna go ahead and use what I made over an engine sim. Oh yeah, listen to that idle. Oh, it's so good. For now, we'll use this. The exhaust also is a little bit weird, so it's not like a mid, because they go out and then they go into one single one. So it'd be more like a long tubular, not so much a race one, because I don't think that makes a lot of sense for this. So we're gonna go with this, and then we're just gonna replace the exhaust anyway. Because as you can see here, it's just like one exhaust that comes here and tapers out to be bigger, and then the subsequent runners as well. We're not gonna be able to do this exactly. We'll try our best. And we're gonna make our exhaust manifold much larger to suffocate ourselves a little bit of power. We're gonna aim for somewhere around 95 to 100 kilowatt, and I want to run something like probably a nitro meth, because this stuff was absolutely atrociously dangerous. Apparently the conrods and everything are failing due to big issues. Let's make the engine the right size. So 58 bore and 70 millimeter stroke. So this is, yeah, a very, very, I think this is under square, is that what it's called? I really don't remember. Sort of engine. We also are 2-cylinder short, so we're not the full volume here. That'll get added later. And I feel that this number is fairly good. We're getting around the sort of power that we want, which is somewhere around 100 kilowatt. I just wonder, however, what this sounds like. It does all right. We only need this basically for the model and for the power curve, which we're going to replace anyway. Now, I could use the one with a little bit of extra peak or the one like this, and I think this is the version I'll use, mostly because there's very little documentation. I couldn't figure out which one was which. Wait, no, here's one, and it has a very defined edge. All right, well, we can work with that then. Switch you back, and then we'll just add something in there to give it a little bit of a more of a crease. Rear wheel drive, manual, and this was a 4-speed. Doesn't really tell me much else, however. Worm and sector steering? What the hell is that? Oh, it just looks like a normal steering box. What's rack and pinion then? Yeah. Nah, it's close. We haven't even gotten to that point. So let's just go open differential. A medium compound is generally what the tires look like. The pitches are really small though. The only thing I can really say for certain that I know about this sort of stuff is the fact that these are cross plies and way before anything like a slick. So, I mean, sports compound, probably not yet. This came much later. And semi-slicks or slicks or anything like that, even later again. Slicks didn't even come around till the 70s. This is the most information I can find on any tire. It's tricky as well. I also don't think that they're symmetrical. If we have a look here, the rear does look considerably wider than the front. And I also don't think they're 600 tall. We'll go with 18 though. No, that doesn't look right. 18 by 600, that doesn't seem right. So if we go to 18 and then down this to 600, it looks very weird. That is not the tire that we have. So back up to what I thought it might have been, somewhere around a 810 and a 20-inch wheel. Or maybe that is right. You can see here it's actually fairly small. So maybe I'm wrong. And instead, the body should be really, really low. That does look, actually, you know what? Not too far off. If we have a look in, no, it has to be a little bit higher than that, but then it only comes up about midway up past the bulge. That's actually, yeah, you know what? I was wrong. Those front tires are correct. I don't think those rear tires are correct. There's no way that these are the same tires. All right, let's take it back up to what I think it is. An 810 and a 20-inch wheel. Then we reduce the rear ride height. And you know what? That's looking okay. Yeah, that does come up like halfway up about here area. Okay, the tire's a bit big, but yeah, that looks fine. Feel that this is still way too small. I mean, my dimensions are correct. I don't understand how this looks so weird. Maybe I just made the body wrong. Oh well. As for the camber though, we're gonna have lots of positive camber on the front, much like the real thing. Though I can't get quite as much as what they had there. It looks like multiple degrees as opposed to a half a degree. Though I can change that here. Front camber. There we go. That looks about right. On the rear, it looks straight up and down. This is really hurting my numbers. Well, painting options now? Well, I've done a few different things. So we got the primary paint color, then we got like a side ballast, which is split between these two, and then a bonnet sort of area. Just in case you want to do doing things differently. Probably should have split that up, but oh well, it'll do. We're just gonna make this all uniform colored like a red with no metallic. Generally at the time, you had to stick to your country's colors, so red was for Italy. Now, whereabouts does this sit? It's an okay area. The engine will come out a little bit further forwards, but that's generally where it would be. As you can see here, the engine does sit behind the front axle and right up against the firewall where this body seam line is. And I've got this body seam line right, so that's about right. Yeah, that works. Very small though. I could theoretically just increase the engine size, but I can do that in BeamNG, so that's all fine for now. Let's paint now this suspension invisible, because we don't need to see it. Now, I'm gonna try to add this crease line back in that's missing. And for that, I'm gonna try this mod. It probably won't work, but we'll give it a see. This isn't working the way I wanted it to. We'd have to do something like that. Ugh, oh well. I think we'll just scrap that for now, and we'll see what we can do later in Blender. Let's pick the wheels now. We do have a wire wheel mod available to us. It looks like a very spaced out wire wheel with a 2-pronged bonus-ear on it. So this? Yeah. Also, this tire is really chunky. So Danda with that information that was probably wrong anyway. Let's put that back up. It seems that we have the exhaust on this side, which is a little tricky, considering that the engine is now the wrong way around. Is there an option here? Doesn't look like it. I can invert the engine. That doesn't fix the issue. I could try inverting the engine around, but once again, it doesn't fix the issue. But hold on, there is a lot of junk at the front, so maybe I could get away with this. So, I don't usually cheat, but that's what we're doing. And you know what, actually, hold on. Because this chassis runs through here anyway, we're gonna go ahead and also paint that invisible, which gets rid of the transmission. Woo! Problem solved. And we're also going to paint the exhaust invisible eventually, but we'll get there. Let's have a look at these mod exhausts we have for how we're going to run this. Kind of this fits best, but it's only 4, and it also does trumpet way too quickly and short. As you can see, this should really be running the length of the entire vehicle, so it's not great. You could try running 1 and stretching it, but then it makes this stretched here. So that's a no-go. I think what I'm gonna have to do is make this fully custom. That looks fairly good. Now we just make 8 of them. And I suppose guess the last 2? That looks about right. Now I wish I had some sort of splayed tube, but I don't. So, oh well. We'll grab this, and if we can, we'll maybe edit this in Blender later. God, so much Blender work goes into these. Couldn't they just make a generic vehicle that would work perfectly with a game that they didn't know it exists yet on a platform that they didn't know it exists, with computers which most of them probably didn't even know that exists? You know, that old chestnut. That mostly seems to work. Now this exhaust shield comes in many different configurations, but I don't have like a flat steel one. I do, however, have similar in this mod, like this. It's close, it just, yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's got too many poly, too much detail. Wait, no. It does come in a low... Oh, okay, perfect. Now we'll just kind of plop it on top. The exhaust is trying to attach to it, but it's just not gonna happen. Kind of wish that this was placed in like 3D parts and not in exhaust parts, because it always messes with the exhaust. Next, we're gonna look at probably doing some suspension. And this is what the leading trailing arm looks like. 2 forks, basically. And for that, I think I'm gonna grab this. So it's not exactly the right shape. If we just hide parts of it, it'll be fine. Since the hood will be on, we won't see this, and hey presto. Perfect. And then for this axle area here, which probably doesn't really need to exist, we're going to use a transversely mounted leaf spring, which is actually what they ran both front and rear. Place that in about there. And if you're not paying attention, that looks good enough. Also, I've never seen this wingspan on one of these cars before. It's completely, maybe, yeah, that's a 159 thing. Since everyone seems to classify the 158 and the 159 as the same vehicle, I think, yeah, nah, this shows that it doesn't have it here. Instead, we got a big, long ventilation area, and then another one, and then another one here. This also doesn't have big side bulges, which the other ones later did have much bigger side bulges. How did I not pick up on this earlier? God damn it. Whatever, we'll figure it out eventually. Which part do I use? I don't think any of them really particularly fit well. And there's this kind of. I have my improved, in my opinion, version of it, but it's not really a dense enough mesh. As you can see when we stretch it out, it looks very flat. And this, lots of it. Do I make a new mod for this? Probably not. But you know what? There's this. I could use, yeah. Make it all body colored, then move it two-dimensionally and replace it. It's close. Probably flatten it out a bit. It's good enough. In BeamNG, it will look a whole lot better. Wait, is this? Please tell me that this image is mirrored, because there's no exhaust on this side like there's meant to be. See, this is on the right side of the driver, and this is on the right side of the driver. Why is what? This shows that on the left side of the driver there's nothing. This side of the left driver there's nothing. What even? Also, this version does have a winglet on the side. There is no words. Moving along, there's another one here and another one here, which seems to be mirrored on both sides. So we're gonna duplicate you and find that you don't fit right, unlike this one. Okay, so it starts at about here, which is about midway through till about the seam line. That I can deal with. And then the final one is a little bit taller. We can deal with that nice and easily. Thank you. Yeah, the more you work with the jankiness of this, the more tricky it gets to work with. Words, you get it. You know what I mean. All right, next is the opening. Luckily, I have a sausage-shaped grill for this, and it seems to fit quite nicely in here. Now, the front grille has had many different iterations that I've seen so far, and due to simplicity, because we don't have the shape that we need, we're gonna run with this shape. The quintessential Alfa Romeo shape of things. Shut up. Yeah, that pretty much works. We're now also gonna grab this again and use just the inside parts and not the rest of the mesh. It's close. It's not doing exactly what I wanted to do, but what can you expect, I suppose? We luckily have a mod that's very similar to this in automation already. Here we go. It's a little bit hard to find things because I have a long list of mods installed already, but I think that works pretty nicely. There we go. Yeah, that works. A little badge here, a crank start here, and we're mostly done. As for the sticker on the side, here we can only see one, here we see none, and here we see two. I get the feeling that this was put on afterwards, and we don't have access to really a clover leaf, so judging by this, we'll go something like that. Closest though is really this, if I'm gonna be honest. And you know what, I don't mind paying a little bit of homage to automation. If only it was green and with the ability to like change colors of these things. These mirrors are a bit weird. I don't know if I can really replicate though. Okay. Let's revert back to this image. Damn it, that makes it, you know what, actually, that's not square. That makes it easier. No mirror, though there is bolt holes for a mirror. None here, square here, though that's probably a 1.5, no, it does say 1.58. Then this little miniature one here, there's no mirror there. Yeah, I think we're just gonna go no mirror. As for the rear end, really the only thing I have to pay attention to is maybe put a bit of shielding on the exhaust there, but this teardrop fuel cap. We don't have a teardrop, but we do have a round one that we can just narrow up a little bit, and we'll end up looking like one. Wow, I didn't realize how sharp this was. That's a mistake. Oh well, not much I can do about that, I suppose. I think I want to put these winglets on, but I don't think I have anything that fits the shape. I mean, there's semicircles. I remember making these for that old Mercedes 159. But I just, these do have a much more distinctive wing sort of design that, yeah, doesn't quite work here. But I don't know. I think we're pretty much done on the outside. So we've got like a lush brown interior, very velvet, velour or something like that. We've got cloth, but it's also very faded. So faded a bit. Yeah, that's working enough. Then in there, we've got a bucketish sort of seat. We're not gonna leave this default, so we're gonna grab a mod seat, which I think will fit quite nicely. Yeah, one of these. And then we just paint this the same color. Yeah, that looks like it works pretty nicely. Now, if you have any opinions, keep them to yourself. Wait. That just looks like a straight up couch from this angle. Oh, that's hilarious. And you've also got the drive shaft coming through between your legs and a bit of a cross member. Oh, interesting choices have been made. 3-spoke wooden wheel and metal dash with a rev counter on this side and a whole bunch of dials on the other side. This is the 159 though, by the looks of it, so it's not gonna be 100%. I now feel as if this is good enough to go take over to BeamNG, except for the fact that it's missing a rear axle. Hold on, let me do that first. Not that you can really see in there anyway, if I'm gonna be honest. This is the most we could see, barely visible. So we're gonna call this the Alfa, you know what, we're just gonna call it the Alfa Romeo. I mean, it's not as if they're bringing this back anytime soon and they're gonna copyright strike me. Here's hoping. And we're gonna call it the 158. I wonder what a it does in its current configuration around the automation test track. I'm gonna guess like 2 minutes 40? Oh, 2 minutes 44, that was damn close. What's our weight? 649 kilos. 510? And here it says 700 kilos. So I'm kind of in the middle of the both, but this is also a later, more powerful version of it that has like, what was it, 300 and something horsepower? We're only going up to about 290. Yeah, here we go, 350. Yeah, we're about 60 short of that. So 649, I think, is a fine number to reach. It seems that this race was in Italy, so I think we'll go there. Now, I know that this isn't actually Italy. This is no real place in Italy because it's all in America. Thanks, devs. It also reckons it's about 4.5 kilometers. I don't think we're going to find anything exactly like that. So instead, I think I'll just have a bit of a drive around and see how it goes. Did that just stall immediately? I think I might have just stalled immediately. Oh, oversteer. Lots of oversteer. Oh, no. Oh, we bent the steering a smidgen. Wow, this thing has a large propensity for oversteer, but we're doing okay. Oh god, can you imagine trying to go high speed in something this narrow and dangerous? No, okay. Alright, let's try to see what sort of top speeds we can reach before the supercharger goes on and all of that other modding, because currently this is default from automation. And you'll also notice that there's very little jiggle. And I've not done any modding. Let me quickly show you. Oh, yeah, Control T, yeah. That used to be a whole lot worse. The exporter has gotten a lot better. Still, I mean, not perfect, but usable. Well, I'm gonna hope for about 200 kilometers an hour. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to reach that. Too windy. Oh, we're still going. Driftomatic. Oh, dear. Oh, well. If you want to know how I'm going to grab the audio, go watch this video. And if you want to know how I tune nodes and whatnot and do a whole bunch of other little things that I'm about to do, maybe go watch this video.
The next morning.
Oh, well, that took quite some time to finish, but we've gotten there. Done mostly just the collision mesh and all that sort of stuff. As you can hear, got the sounds in here, and it sounds good. But we're now going to add the supercharger on, and unfortunately, this is one automation update that has made things just a little bit more tricky. Because now everything engine related has its own hash code, that's great for certain things, but hasn't really made it easier to just drag and drop. So we're back to having to code by hand again. As you can see, they've prepped to put the supercharger in, but have failed yet to actually implement it properly. I would also like to point out that it also has the hash on the end of here, so you're always going to need to know that. You know what, actually I just found just below the supercharger thing, hopefully this will stay here and we won't have to change this in the future, but if there is an update and this line here gets removed, well, what you'll have to do is grab this bit of code here, copy it, then in this new file, so that's this file here, Camso Supermod, will be linked in the description. Right here under slot type, you'll have to put that in there, along with every variant of it right there. So under slot type, because there's 3 types of superchargers here. There's centrifugal, there's screw types, and then the top one is roots type. But for now, we're just gonna leave it as Camso supercharger. And under the part selector, we're gonna now find supercharger mod we can put in our supercharger. We're gonna go root supercharger. And we also know that this has to be able to reach 17 PSI approximately, which should be about 1.2 bar. So currently, this thing does 0.2 to 0.3. Yeah, not really good enough. So we're gonna turn this up and turn this up. Approximately that should probably do it. And let's see what we got now. Okay, we got about 1.1. Oh, okay, losing control. And power is now, ooh, that is actually way too much power. All right, well, apparently I was off on some numbers, so let's generate less pressure? Oh, okay, this is a 1938, so a much older version with 190 horsepower. We're looking at 1946. Do we have, oh, 260 horsepower, okay. We're actually a little bit shy. And also shy on the RPM, which is unfortunate. 1 notch up and 265, perfect. I think we're also gonna go in and give ourselves a little bit more RPM. Gonna jump this up to 7,500 and all right, that was okay. 280 horsepower, okay then. Time to tune this back a notch. Come on, 260. 251. Ugh. And 258. That's 2 horsepower short, so we're fine. It's just that it reaches the power band a little bit earlier, but I suppose that was fine for back in the day. They didn't need everything to be absolutely peaky done, though they did make it a lot more peaky later on. Now, listen to this beautiful straight 8. That's a lot of supercharger whine. Wonder if we'll be able to hear it. The supercharger, that is. Not really revving. Don't really hear it either. Also a little bit more brappy than what I expected. No, I can hear the supercharger. Okay. That is what we'll go with. And we're just gonna turn the volume down a little bit, so yeah. Okay. I think we're happy with these, which is 0.5 and 0.65 on the pitch, and yeah, you get the idea. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a chance just to listen to it before I yammer on some more. Now, it would have been in a very different format, but this vehicle would have seen its way around the Nürburgring. So, I think that's what we're gonna do. I don't know if Monaco would have been the racetrack of choice at the time. I suppose I can have a bit of a look to see if F1 did actually have events organized for Monaco, because it wasn't a championship, it was just, you know, some races. It was usually the owners were the drivers. It was just some people having fun with cars. I mean, it was expensive, and this is kind of directly after the war, so it is really only the really rich people, because everyone else would have been absolute paupers. It is surprising, though, Germany being bombarded so badly and then about to have real big issues with the Iron Curtain and all that sort of stuff going through the Berlin Wall and whatnot, that they were able to join in to Formula One so quickly after the war. But, I mean, Mercedes, say what you will, they were able to do very good for their time. Ooh. Now, remember how I was talking about the positive camber on the front tires being really positive? I'm kind of glad I did that now, because this thing still wants to oversteer something chronic. Okay, frame lag, that's a bit annoying. Slow it down, don't want to lock up the tires too much. This thing actually carries a fair decent amount of speed. This is really good. I'm probably gonna refine the model a little bit before I put it on the automation Steam workshop for you guys to make your own. And this will be going up on the BeamNG repository as well. And I hope you have fun with it. The model will be basically the same as it is now. But things like that peak at the very top there you can see, yeah, that is going to be the same for my mod, but for automation you guys will have probably a slightly better mod. Ooh, we're gonna try to complete one whole lap though in the meantime. And, you know, I didn't do the 8-cylinder conversion. Oh, I forgot to put the extra 2 cylinders on. I'll do that before I release the mod as well. I should also put in a moving steering wheel. I was thinking I could be a little bit lazy on this one, but you know what? I'm probably gonna have a little bit of time free at some point, and I'm gonna do it. Because I like it. Might even put in a driver at some point. I feel as if a driver would go really well here. Whoa. Keep getting frame lags at really weird times. Also feel like I should probably turn off my HUD. because I wouldn't have any sort of thing like that for a vehicle like this, so... Alt? No, that's the wrong one. I turned the engine off, did I? Oh, no, that's ignition off. Oh, good, the engine is still on. Thank God, I have no idea how this new ignition stuff works yet. There we go, Alt-U. And we do have an interior camera, which I might also modify this visor, wind deflector, whatever you want to call it, to be a little bit more accurate to the one, because it didn't have a brim on the top. That way you could sit just a little bit taller and not have it block your vision. But currently, if you sit any taller, the top brim of this wind deflector gets right in the middle of your view. Slow it down, turn it in. No! Oh, that's not nice. I didn't want that to happen. Goodbye, wheel. I forgot to put the supercharger mod on. Frick. There we go. Now it's gonna be a hell of a lot harder to control. Should also probably make my engine internals a little bit stronger. This will all be default by the time that it goes up on BeamNG repository, so you won't have to put the supercharger mod on every single time. I mean, all you have to do is just rev the engine a little bit and you'll be able to hear the supercharger. There'll be no mistaking it. Oh dear. Oh, that is quite nerve-wracking. Oh, but it's not terrible. Oh, frame drops again. I don't want to go full throttle. And I'm not able to go into even fourth gear at the moment, but we'll probably see that more on the back straight, which is a really big straight. So if I'm not maxing out my RPMs with this longer-ish sort of gear ratios, then I don't know what I've done wrong. But then again, I did turn the aerodynamics quality all the way down, so then this thing wouldn't be able to have a massive top speed. It really should be topping out maybe around 240 to 260. We'll see what we actually do when we get there. For now, we're heading down towards the carousel. Start braking. Get turned. Oh no, we got chucked out of the carousel. There we go, we're back in the carousel and power out. Oh, okay. So, apparently, F1 cars had LSDs in the 30s. I don't know what this had, because there is oh god damn it, little information on LSDs. Alright, we bashed our wheels because we cleaned up the collision mesh and there's no, like, invisible body protecting our wheels. But you know what? It's doing okay so far. We'll probably reset before we go to the straight because I really do want to get this thing a full top speed run. Oh my god, the frame drops are terrible. And that one wheel peel is also atrocious. This thing probably would have really benefited from it because it's not running a particularly soft compound. They really wanted hard compounds. Semi-slicks and slicks, slicks particularly, were seen as dangerous when they were first sort of announced because the drop-off between traction and spinning out was too narrow. And that's why they liked having crossplies, whether the crossplies were faster or slower. They just liked the safety of it. Nobody was really betting the barn on, like, becoming the fastest vehicle. I mean, sure, there was lots of dangerous stuff. But tires were seen as a thing too far, and similar sort of reasons to why they didn't do radials either, and they kept with, that sort of stuff, and... oh, frame lags everywhere. I wonder, hold on, what if I turn my graphics to normal? There's lovely bloom and everything on the car, but this is near undrivable sometimes. Now, my vehicle with absolutely no headlights or taillights on it whatsoever, what are you gonna do down the back straight? We're going downhill, so that's gonna help us a little bit on the top speed, but at least get to the top speed first. I'm looking for about 240 to 260, flattening out. 250, 260. I'm gonna lift off a little bit and see what we do now that it's leveling out a little bit. We're still gaining speed. We're getting closer to 270 now. Oh, that speedo is inconsistent. You know what? I don't know if this is accurate. Let's get airspeed. 270. Okay. You know, 270. Not too much over the speed it should have reached. Freaking scary as hell, now I can't brake. Oh, these tires are not meant for braking. even though that's just what they will do. One of these days, these brake shoes will walk all over you. There we go, final 2 corners. Oh! Good work. Oh, no, tap the wall again. Oh, and bringing it down with a nasty bent front wheel. And across the line, if there was a line, which, I mean, there isn't. Oh boy, this has been fun. I'm gonna go do the 3D modeling for the engine to be put into a 8-cylinder as opposed to a 6-cylinder now. But I also want to thank my channel members, and that specifically includes to Hellerman for being a top-tier channel member. I appreciate all of you, but for now, I'll catch you all next time. Goodbye.